We welcome you to the Alabama Spring Game presented by Regions Bank. It's the annual A-Day game here in Tuscaloosa. Coach Saban and his staff, they've divided up the roster crimson and white opposite each other, giving us first-team offense against first-team defense here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. As we say, good afternoon. Alongside Greg McElroy, I'm Joe Tessitore. Glad you're with us. Greg, it's that time of the year in college football where there are always more questions than answers. There's an obvious question here at Alabama. Who will be the starting quarterback? Folks thought they knew the answer. Not quite. And, of course, a Heisman finalist at receiver gone, so playmakers have to step up.
Quarterback, though, we'll start there. That's the guy that gets the ball from the center. So he is the most important position on the offense. Jake Coker, the guy most people expect to step up, but he does have 4 capable contenders that are definitely vying for the position. And the playmakers, O.J. Howard, a guy that disappeared at times last year, could turn into that every down tight end that they want. And we all know the beast that wears number 2 now, 27 a year ago, Derrick Henry.
Hey, there's no question on the other side for Alabama. Their defense front, I think it may be the best unit in the country.
Very deep, very versatile. They recruit all different types of players to go against all the different types of offenses they'll see throughout the SEC West. Very talented group led by A'Shawn Robinson. A group that we'll be paying close attention to today, Joe.
There's a lot to lean on with that defensive front for Coach Saban, but a lot to figure out as well. He's with our Shannon Spake. Shannon?
Thanks, Joe. Coach, you said that one of your priorities was to reestablish the identity of this team. What is the definition of that identity?
Well, you know, we always used to be a very tough, physical, relentless, competitive type team. And you know, I felt last year and the year before we lost a little bit of that. You know, you want to be a team that nobody wants to play. When you play in a tough league, I think that, you know, that kind of identity can go a long way in terms of the kind of effort and toughness that you play with and the kind of mental toughness you have to deliver whenever you need to, whatever the circumstance.
A huge part of a team's identity is the quarterback position. What value can today's game play in helping determine who that guy will be?
Well, I think that it's one thing to do things in practice. I think it's completely different to be able to go out and play within yourself, be a leader, affect the other people, do your job, execute the way you need to. So this will be a great opportunity for us to see how each one of these guys does that today. You know, I kind of equate this a little bit to a midterm exam. No, it's not the final. It's just a midterm. You're going to see where you are, see where the progress of your team is, see where the progress of each player is, and then know where you have to direct your attention to try to improve.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Greg, how did you do on your midterm exams?
1 and 3, Shannon. I'm afraid I had Franks and beans way too often for my comfort level, but like he said, this is not the final exam. They didn't make a decision on who their quarterback was until well into the regular season. You can see the 2 guys right now that we're going to pay very close attention to, and Jake Coker, the guy we mentioned in the open, and David Cornwell, arguably the biggest surprise in spring. Big kid, looks the part, better than advertised athleticism from Norman, Oklahoma. We'll be paying close attention to what he can do today.
And Franks and Beans, that's the dinner for the losing team. The winners get steak as Adam Griffith to kick away as A-Day is underway here in Tuscaloosa. Kenyon Drake wearing that black jersey as they're not going live on the returns here on special teams. Some unique rules, and you understand right away what the black jersey means. They are not live. Going to tag off those players. You already saw special teams, kickoff and punts, field goals, not live, no rush. The clock will be running except for the last 4 minutes in each half. And when it comes to defense, hey, coach has been public saying going to be a little vanilla. You're not going to see extra men coming after the quarterback.
Offensive coordinators don't get to shift, don't get to motion. Defensive coordinators don't get to blitz. They want their guys to play fast, and that's what we should see today.
So Jake Coker under center with Derrick Henry in the backfield. Play action to start this edition of the Alabama Spring Game. Downfield, and he's able to get it complete to Robert Foster. Very talented and explosive receiver.
I love the play calling early. Get Jake Coker outside the pocket where he can see easily, display some of that athleticism, throws a nice ball, unfazed by the elements, to Robert Foster down the sideline.
So a 30-yard reception to start Jake Coker's day. And here is Derrick Henry as he's wrapped up by Dalvin Tomlinson. Henry now wearing number 2, the jersey change from 27. We don't know how much we will see of Jake Coker today. They've been splitting up the reps equally among the 5 quarterbacks. There's some good and bad that comes with that, Greg.
It's good to give everyone an opportunity. They have somewhat hurt themselves by the fact that they have not given a guy a lion's share of the reps, so maybe they're not playing as sharp as they would be.
Here's Coker as he quickly gets it to Stewart. And Ardurius Stewart down to the 32-yard line. The story on Jake Coker, you know, second year at Alabama after transferring from Florida State, really started to pay attention to the name Jake Coker after the spring he had when he was competing with Jameis Winston at Florida State. Transferred here, and it was assumed he would be the man, that Blake Sims was just a holdover from spring. That wasn't the case. Sims never relinquished the starting job, had an outstanding past year. Nice to see Kenyon Drake back out there. He's in the backfield as Coker felt a little bit of pressure and threw it to the outside of Drake as Reuben Foster had coverage, and Petway was coming to the inside against Coker.
Jake Coker has phenomenal skills. Huge arm. Did not feel very comfortable last year. He looked at times as though he was not playing very fast. This year, they say by everything they've seen in the spring that he's playing faster, he's more comfortable. He's very confident in what Lane Kiffin wants him to be doing offensively.
You see Cooper Bateman out there the hold as Adam Griffith is sent out for the field goal attempt. And place that down on the 40-yard line, so going to call it a 49-yard attempt for Griffith, and he puts it through. He's dealing with a stress fracture most of last year, but he's got a leg talent kick, does Griffith. So Coker and the White offense get on the board, and Coach Saban likes that start.
Of DeAndrew White has a similar skill set. A flat-out speed guy can definitely develop the rest of his game.
First down run now for Derrick Henry as he's able to lower the shoulder and cross midfield to the 48. Derrick Henry, the all-time leading rusher in high school football history, was one of the most talked about 5-star recruits in recent years. And listen, even though things went south in the Sugar Bowl, the way he finished up the season personally, SEC title game, went for 141 yards against Ohio State, grounding out 95 and a touchdown. Here's Robert Foster. He's off to a good start today. Remember, he caught the 30-yard reception, opened up this A-Day game.
Robert Foster is a guy that came in as a very highly touted recruit. Now, had to tighten up his game a little bit. He said it himself that he wasn't very coachable early on. Had to learn how to take criticism. He's responded well by having a good spring, and he could develop into that feature guy they look for in the fall.
Coker 4-7 for 62 yards. This is a nice bounce back drive after that last possession. First down pass attempt for Coker. Going to take a shot downfield and just thrown beyond Foster as Bradley Silv had coverage.
This is something they've been a little concerned about, giving up deep throws, deep balls in the passing of cutting up. Robert Foster's trying to get vertical. He's a guy that has flat out speed. He can run with anybody. Now, his ball skills and adjusting when the ball is thrown in the air and being a little bit more physical is an area where he's going to have to improve over the course of the summer and fall camp.
Cyrus Jones, who's assumed to be one of the starting quarterbacks, out today. So Silv and Brown starting at corner on this Crimson defense. Second down and 10. Play action again. Plenty of time for Coker. Going to take a shot for Foster again. But that was thrown to the outside of the pylon as Geno Smith was trying to stay with Robert Foster.
This is an area where fans got a little frustrated at times with the play calling of Lane Kiffin. 2nd and 10, not necessarily a shot down. Right now, I want to see if Jake Coker recognizes the situation, knowing that he's knocking on the door of field goal range. Does he get overly aggressive and try to go for the first down, or does he settle for the points?
1 of 3 on 3rd down is this White team offense. And that was blown up right away by Reuben Foster. Starting to really see this sensational sophomore emerge. He's taken on that signal caller role, and he could be something special in the coming years.
He's done an incredible job this spring. They're so pleased with his improvement. One of the things he struggled with early on is when he did go into tackle, he'd lead with his head and it'd result in some injuries. So he's been much safer about the way he goes about playing. But as you can see, he can hit with the best of them on this team.
They're going to keep the offense on the field here on 4th down. Coker. Right down the middle of the field. And caught for a touchdown on 4th and 14 by Ardarius Stewart. 40-yard touchdown strike from Jake Coker.
What a great throw. Keeping it up the boundary, or keeping it up the hash. That's exactly the landmark that you want. Fantastic throw, and this is what you're concerned about if you're the Alabama defense. Giving up the deep plays, especially on 3rd down and 4th down when you can get off the field. Ohio State took advantage of those plays last year. They're going to have to continue to make that a point of emphasis moving forward.
Puts it through.
And a great job. He kept his eyes to the right, held the safety in the middle of the field. Eddie Jackson responsible for number 3 Chris Black going across the field, leaving Maurice Smith on an island. And Ardarius Stewart, like we talked about, that speed guy, that vertical threat, the Kenny Bell that they've had in the past, the DeAndrew White that they've had in the past. Can he develop into that player?
You know, and one of the things that perhaps went unnoticed among the national college football fans was a key injury this spring with Alabama. Everybody pointed to Amari Cooper leaving. Well, the guy who was touted as perhaps being one of the next great ones and able to play that similar role to Amari Cooper was Cam Sims. Cam Sims tore an ACL this spring. So now you look at this thinned out wide receiver depth chart and you turn to possibly an incoming freshman in Calvin Ridley, who's going to be coming in. So it's nice to see Stewart do this today.
Stewart needs to have a good performance here with Chris Black, Robert Foster, and him. They have got to figure out a way to make sure that he's a point of emphasis, the guy that can take the top off the defense. They're very excited about what Calvin Ridley can be, and it's not out of the question that he can't be that go-to guy early on in his career. Lane Kiffin talked about it, Joe. This is an offense that's built to suit the wide receiver. Maybe Calvin Ridley can come in and have an early impact like Amari Cooper did and like Julio Jones did.
And you think of the years of Lane Kiffin offenses, he's always had early contributors at wide receiver, Robert Woods, Marquise Lee. Of course, last year he went heavy with Amari Cooper, earning a trip to New York as a Heisman finalist. Blake Barnett now in at quarterback, as Ronnie Clark had nowhere to go against that white defense front. Blake Barnett is the early enrollee, the true freshman from Corona, California, went to Santiago High. He was the #1 ranked pocket passer according to ESPN.com. A kid that Notre Dame fans were pinning their hopes on as going to lead the way of the future of the Fighting Irish. Decommitted last summer, couldn't resist the chance to come with Saban and Kiffin. And he has showed flashes this spring. A lot to digest, though, for the early enrollment. As they set up the screen to Clark, he's able to get it out to the 31-yard line.
You can see trying to make the screen game a point of emphasis. This second defensive line does an outstanding job getting after the passer. So slowing them down with draws and screens is something that I would imagine they will try to do with this Crimson offense.
Final seconds here of the first quarter. Here's Barnett on 3rd and 9. Taking a lot of time to look over his options before he is whistled down as the first quarter comes to an end. The white team, the first team offense, with a 10-0 lead. Jake Coker, 40-yard strike to Stewart. Joe Tessitore and Greg McElroy back with you here for the Alabama spring game presented by Regions Bank. 1 quarter in, and Coach Saban, well, he said, listen, the idea this spring was to give the quarterbacks an opportunity to see if somebody would become the man. Alec Morris now gets his chance as they have split reps all spring long. Jake Coker was leading this white team offense, and he went 6 of 11 for 94 yards and a touchdown. Now it's Morris's chance. And Morris was chased down that time as he felt the pressure from Tim Williams. Morris is a junior from Allen, Texas, one of the powerhouse high school programs in North Texas. And he's likely in about the same spot he was a year ago. He's steady, has ability. Last year he saw time in 4 games. Actually opened up eyes as a backup punter last year. He had 15 punts in last year's A-Day game. Also went 3 for 7 passing a year ago in the spring game.
They really like his unselfishness, though, and how good of a teammate he was to Blake Sims last year.
Here's Morris. And Stewart wasn't able to haul that in. So Jake Coker plays the first quarter today and gives way to Alec Morris. Coker with the 40-yard touchdown pass to Stewart. Also a great sign to open up the game. First play of the game with a 30-yard completion.
He did a nice job managing the situation. I would have liked to have seen him take a couple checkdowns, maybe use his legs, but he has a big arm. He wants to showcase it, and at times that can be on full display.
3rd and 21 now as Morris is trying to sling it sidearm. DJ Petway bringing some pressure that time on the quarterback.
Not much of a chance for Alec Morris right there. A tough 3-play series. But you can see the savviness, the way he adjusted his arm angle. Coaches rave about his football acumen, his ability to understand and explain to others within the offense how to fully execute. He did a great job with Blake Sims signaling. They were very close friends, and they really appreciate the way he went about helping his teammate last year.
J.K. Scott, as he just hits a low tumbling line drive punt that isn't fielded and goes back to inside the 30-yard line. Well, after that first quarter, there was a nice reception here at Bryant-Denny because they have themselves a new basketball coach in Tuscaloosa, none other than Avery Johnson. Of course, all the years of success in the NBA, and now he brings himself to SEC basketball here in T-Town. Shannon?
That's right, Joe. Coach Johnson said Alabama called, and I answered. Absolutely a great reception here today. I want to know, like, from the time that you stepped foot in Tuscaloosa, this whole wild ride, if you could put one word to describe it, what is that?
Well, it's been amazing. We've been well received here by all of the Crimson Tide fans, alumni, students, trustees, and just Alabama fans all across the country. So it's been it's been amazing and flattering, and I'm honored to be the new head men's basketball coach.
In the press conference when you were announced as the new coach, you had some very high goals for this team. You even mentioned the Final Four. What are your non-negotiables in getting to that point?
Well, we got to be a team of mental and physical toughness, a team that can handle adversity on and off the court. Hopefully we'll excel in all of the fundamentals of the game and be a team that plays unselfish and develop an identity. And we don't have an identity yet. So I just think our standards are high. They're not low. We're not saying we're going to get there in 1 year or 2 years, but we're just saying that the Final Four is the standard.
Yeah, I asked Coach Saban this before the game about the identity. What is the definition of an identity to you?
Well, for us, I think your really good teams, they're going to be a defensive team or an offensive team or a balanced team. And it's one of those 3 categories, and they're going to be really good in all of those areas, and teams are going to have to strategize in how to slow them down. My goal is to become a balanced team. All of my teams on the NBA levels that were really good, they were very balanced. So that's our goal.
Coach, we look forward to seeing you when basketball starts up again.
Okay, roll tide.
Back to you, Joe.
Well, he's got that down pat. Was the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks as well as the Nets. 1st and 15 with Cooper Bateman under center. And Ronnie Clark trying to bounce it to the outside. Not much there for Clark. Former defensive back who moved over to offense.
Tackled by a former offensive wide receiver, now moving to defense, and Anthony Averett. So a couple of guys that usually are on the same side of the ball. Not today, though, not in the Crimson White game.
Looking over the shoulder of the big boss. 2nd and 14. Bateman with time, and he is able to get it complete out to the 47-yard line to Ty Forney-Smith. He started his career at Georgia, JUCO, then came to Alabama. Another one of those tight ends that has a freaky athletic body. I mean, you look at O.J. Howard and Forney-Smith, and you can see what kind of matchup headaches they can be in space.
He's not as long as O.J. Howard, but he's just as quick and can get in and out of his breaks really, really well. They like him a lot. He just has to do a better job with his hand in the ground like he is right here, lined up on the left side.
3rd and 2. Bateman sprint near side, and that's complete right about on the sticks to Parker Baranow. Walk-on who has some ability. And that is a first down for the Crimson team offense, with Cooper Bateman getting time at quarterback right now. We've seen David Cornwell and Blake Barnett already for the Crimson team.
Looks like Alphonse Taylor's down on the field, a little bit shaken up.
Alphonse Taylor starting left guard for the Crimson team, as they tend to hit
two types of defenses. You have Arkansas and LSU and Georgia that are going to run the downhill I formation pro style offenses. In steps of Darren Lake. Last year it was Chris Ivory, guys that had to clog the middle and clog the run lanes. Then you have the teams like Texas A&M and Auburn, where you want speed on the field. They have two types of defenses here, and they've been able to recruit so well. The depth and versatility is there, and they should be a huge hurdle for a lot of offenses to get over.
Dakota Ball with the reception from Alec Morris. And you bring up an interesting point. When you play in the SEC West, and this is something that Kirby Smart is focusing, you really have to recruit all around defensive linemen. You can just spread out against Auburn up tempo. This is a luxury that Alabama has. Most teams have to have their best on the field all the time. Henry now, as he comes up about a yard short of that line to make. Running clock here until we get within 4 minutes of halftime.
Back to what you said, where they have those guys, and most teams do have to play their best players all the time. Alabama has a luxury that where they have that depth, but they've had to focus really an awful lot of attention on substitutions and getting the right guy on the field given the situation. If it's 3rd and long, it's a passing down. Say the team converts, they need to get their run stoppers on the field for first down the following play. So that's been a point of emphasis for them this spring.
Reggie Ragland with the tackle that time, but it was good enough for a first down as Kirby Smart sends in the calls. Here's Morris now. And able to control that was Robert Foster. I think you get a glimpse of what Robert Foster may be able to do this fall, Greg.
And he's not even close to a finished product. You can see him running over the top right here, winning against Reggie Ragland with just speed. If he learns how to dial that route up and get a little bit more creative with the path across the field, he could get more separation. So he's a work in progress, but the talent and the baseline fundamentals are there.
Very fast, has a lot of upside to him. Kenyon Drake now. And that big play touchdown against Florida last year, and then was lost for the season with the broken leg. But much talked about this spring.
Most people don't realize last year when he was injured against Ole Miss, he was leading this Tide offense in touchdowns. He had 6 over the course of a 4-game span. Amari Cooper at the time only had 5.
Consider the fact that Cooper finished up with 16. Morris stripped away in the pocket that time, as Tim Williams has been very active.
One of those guys that's going to need to be active against the Texas A&Ms of the world, those great tackles, those pass-setting shotgun-style offenses. And Alabama's incorporated more shotgun this year in the spring. It's been a point of emphasis, and it's allowed their quarterbacks to take the fundamentals out of it. They've been able to play a little bit faster from the gun, where a lot of them succeeded in high school, playing from that 5 yards deep in the backfield.
Now, flag is down.
Number 76 on the offense. That penalty is declined. Result of the play. recovery of the fumble by the red team.
Dominic Jackson with the penalty, but they're going to give it over to the Crimson team. And remember, talk about a point of emphasis. The ball, the ball, the ball. That is what is being stressed all spring long. In fact, Kirby Smart has gone so far as to go out and buy a pro wrestling style championship belt that they call the ball out belt. It's moments like you just saw on the field that earn you this day in and day out in practice. You get a point for stripping it out or touching it. You get points for a batted ball or causing an interception, and these defensive players go after the ball out championship defensively at practice every day.
At the end of the spring, they're going to have the person's name that finished with the highest point total on the belt permanently.
So the Crimson team offense back out there. Cooper Bateman at quarterback. And that is intercepted as Bateman threw it right over the middle, and Jabril Washington stepped up for an interception.
Just a poor decision right there. Sometimes you have to know when to cut your losses. Sudden change situation. You have momentum. Your defense just got you the ball. It's not a sign of weakness to take your check down. Michael Niswander down in the flat at the 45-yard line. That's where the ball should have gone. A poor decision to try to force it to Falcons across the middle. Cooper Bateman has got to learn from that mistake. When you have limited reps, you want to make sure you put your best foot forward, but mistakes happen. Learn from it. Don't make the same mistake twice.
By the way, Washington does not get any points towards that ball out belt there. He does not count interceptions. If you impact the ball and it causes an interception, you can get yourself after that belt. Morris pressured again that time by Dylan Lee. Shannon?
Something that impacts the belt is the weight of this thing, Joe. It's about 20 pounds. Take a look at it so you can see, as you mentioned, they're going to put their names right here. Season champion for Get the Ball, camp champion, spring champion. I spoke with Kirby Bradley. I'm going to go put this down before I, losing muscle down here. Goodness gracious. But he did say, this is a huge motivation for them, and it all started, the Cowboys head coach came over to the team and spoke to the team. Oh, there goes the belt. They just took it.
Shannon, you're like Mayweather or The Rock down there on the sidelines.
I think they were afraid I was going to steal it or something. They just came and took it from me. It was all about get the ball, so they've really put an emphasis on that. In fact, they all got sheets. All the defensive players got sheets at the beginning of the season. In their locker, it was laminated, and it said that, get the ball. And Coach Saban told us yesterday, it's as simple as that. The offense wants to keep the ball. The defense wants to get it. Let's get back to basics, back to fundamentals. It's all about that ball.
Jay Coker back in as the championship ball out belt is sent back over to the other side with pride. Jay Coker with a good start on this drive here, connecting with Dakota Bell, and now trying to set up the screen, but he's going to have to burn that at the feet of Derrick Henry. So Coker 8 of 13 for 113 yards, and that 40-yard touchdown on 4th down to Stewart in the first quarter. Back in here getting time in the second quarter.
Jay Coker, over the course of his time here in Tuscaloosa, has tended to force the ball a little bit. Right now, 1:34 left. You have a couple of timeouts at your disposal. Play smart football, but don't force it, knowing that you could potentially, in 10 yards, have a shot for a field goal.
Here's Derrick Henry. And a good run from Henry for a first down to the 35, tackled by Dylan Lee.
These are the most game-like situations. When I'm evaluating a quarterback, I want to see them excel in a 2-minute offense where they're directing traffic, they're getting guys lined up, they're motioning, they're communicating with their offensive line. This is when you can really tell who your guy's going to be.
Coker now. That was Henry trying to come out of the backfield, but he was met right away by Geno Smith.
Kenyon Drake coming onto the field now at running back. This is probably the guy we'll see when Alabama is running a 2-minute offense. That receiving threat gives you the option to go to an empty backfield. He's the guy we'd probably see, but it's good to see Derrick Henry get some reps in there as well.
2nd and 11 with Drake flanking Coker. Trips to the right for Coker. And right back to Foster. And he's inside the 5 to the 1. Good first half for Robert Foster as Coker and that white team offense looks to score before the half.
Outstanding throw right here. When the wide receiver is able to beat the defender on the inside, you want to drive the football. Outstanding recognition by Jake Coker and Robert Foster.
And Kenyon Drake takes it in. Of course, he's wearing the black jersey, so he's not live, but it's got to feel good for Kenyon Drake considering everything he's been through in the course of the past year. The broken leg suffered, and he's worked so hard to get himself back. And they're going to...
Nick Saban's a little upset right now.
Did.
That's not the guy you want out there when he's in a black non-contact jersey running your goal line offense.
They're marking that on the 2. They want goal line with a live body in there at running back. So here comes Derrick Henry. Nick's going to do what he wants, and this is what he wants. Here's Henry now. Go and earn it. And he struggles to against that front as they all rallied to the ball, and coming up to support from that safety position was Eddie Jackson as well. So a timeout used by the white team. That'll leave 26 seconds in this first half. A good looking drive from Jake Coker, Greg.
Outstanding throw to Robert Foster down the left side. He has more physical ability than anyone we've seen at the position donning the crimson and white over the last several years. He has a big arm. He just needed to figure out a way to play with a little more urgency. And last year you couldn't tell that he was learning the offense at times, and then there were other times when he looked like he had never seen it. So he's got to play faster and continue to play at the level he's playing now.
Here's Henry again, and this time he charges right through, right behind O.J. Howard, the tight end. 10-play drive spanning 59 yards, well managed by Jake Coker. Had the big reception, the completion of Robert Foster to get them inside the 5, and then Coach Saban wanted to see Derrick Henry get the work in the goal line situation, and he scores the touchdown. As Gunnar Rayborn, sophomore from Louisiana, makes it 17-zip. So far, so good with Jake Coker. And a playmaker emerging in Robert Foster. And always reliable is big Derrick Henry. Tessitore, Craig McElroy, and Shannon Spake here in Tuscaloosa. A day. And what a day it's been for Jake Coker, senior quarterback from Mobile. His white team offense up 17-0. Last year's A-Day game was an offensive struggle. And it's the way Coker went about finishing up that first half that was impressive as well, hitting 4 of his last 5. And now the Crimson team offense with David Cornwell, who Lane Kiffin noted that he didn't have his best scrimmage the last time out. They put him in some tough situations. They want to see how he responded then. We'll see how Cornwell responds now. Last few moments before halftime here as he finds Ronnie Clark, who gets it out to the 37-yard line.
A lot to like about David Cornwell. Hasn't had much of an opportunity early, but they really like what he can become. Shows great presence in the pocket for a young guy in this environment for the first time. He's displayed nice poise, and that's such an important part of what Nick Saban's looking for when evaluating his quarterbacks.
Once again, out of the backfield to Clark. Just a second remaining here as Coach Saban wants to potentially maximize the reps.
And these are teachable moments as well. I mean, for a young guy like David Cornwell practicing maybe a Hail Mary situation, there are very few opportunities to work on plays like this. And these are the plays that win and lose games in the fall. So take every opportunity you possibly can to get the most reps possible for a young quarterback like David Cornwell.
Threw it just behind Florney Smith, the intended target. So Cornwell finishes up the first half as the quarterback on the field, but it was Jake Coker that'll be the talk about. And that's much needed talk about. A lot of folks were surprised coming into today that it wasn't his job throughout all of spring, as Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban talked things over. What'd you make of Coker in that first half, Greg?
I thought he did a really nice job managing the situation, particularly in the 2-minute drive, getting everyone lined up, having a presence at the line of scrimmage, and throwing nice, accurate, concise footballs.
17-zip, white team. Shannon's with Nick Saban.
Well, Coach, most of the highlights in this first half have come from your offense. Are you more focused on their performance or the fact that your defense have given those plays up?
No, I think it's really good that the offensive team is doing well. I think we need the confidence with the quarterbacks. You know, we're very limited in what we're doing on both sides of the ball, really. But, you know, what the offense is doing has been very encouraging. We got 6 starters out on defense, so I'm not too worried, but we don't like to see explosive plays. But, you know, some of the things that the offense is doing has been very good. Jake has played very well, which is a good thing. We just need to do more stuff with the second group so they got a chance to make some plays.
You mentioned Jake, a midterm exam, halfway through that exam. What do you think?
Well, he's done a nice job so far. You know, I mean, he really has. This is the best he's played. This is the best we've done offensively, you know, against the defense all spring, which is very encouraging and a good thing.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Joe?
Thanks, Shannon. We're going to go to the film room coming up at the half as Greg McElroy will take us there, discuss the state of Alabama and where this team is based on who they lost and who returns. Well, mention the offense. They combined to pass for 223 yards, 19 of 31, and that beautiful touchdown pass to our Darius Stewart. Halftime from T-Town when we return. Stay with us. Halftime here at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa for the Crimson Tide's annual A-Day spring game. Most college football programs couldn't survive losing what Alabama loses every year. This year, it's a Heisman finalist wide receiver, a record-setting quarterback who's gone, a star running back, and one of the best safeties to ever play here. But most programs are in Alabama, where just as impressive as the list of who's left is those ready to step up now.
The ones that's not here, at the end of the day, we still love them, but we got to move on. I hate to say it like that, but it's just how it is at Alabama, because we one of the only schools in the country that redshirt 5-star athletes coming in. So at the end of the day, you got to handle your business on and off the field, and you got to be a man about it.
We've used to handle adversity. We feel like it gives a lot of the young guys a good opportunity to showcase their talents in roles that they might not have gotten, which is an opportunity for someone to step up.
We know we don't have the guys we had in the previous years. We just got to go out there and work hard and get better, just so we're prepared right.
You know, we're definitely going to miss Blake Sims, Amari Cooper, T.J. Dillon, but we have a lot of great guys who are going to step up and fill their roles.
We all know what we lost. He just said we got to get back to what we've been doing, what's Bama known for, and get back to playing Bama football. Expectation, I mean, that's always going to happen. We just try to focus on what we can't control, and that's about going out there and competing every day and getting better on both sides of the ball.
The dream continues for the Buckeyes. The nightmare starts for #1 Alabama. They are no more.
Think about it all offseason when we're running. Just think about the Ohio State game. They put it on the film while we're working out. So we think about it a lot. Personally, fuel to my fire.
Bring fire to our eyes, and we just got to keep pushing. You might hear the game or see them. You hear that, it just puts a rage and fire inside you.
Personally, I feel like we should win the national championship. That's our goal. If we don't do that, then it's a failure of a season for us personally. I know that might not be fair in some sense, but I mean, we want to win it all every year. I feel like everybody does, and everybody should.
Of course, there's always fresh talent ready to emerge. Nick Saban has hauled in a string of 5 straight #1 ranked recruiting classes. Just over 4 months until the season opener to see if this young talent can contribute in key ways. More from Tuscaloosa when we return to A-Day.
Halftime here from Bryant-Denny Stadium in beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Crimson and the White facing off in the 2015 edition of the A-Day game. I'm Greg McElroy. I had a chance earlier this week to catch up with the leaders of both the offensive line and the defense, Reggie Ragland and Ryan Kelly.
Here in the Malmore Athletic Facility, Reggie Ragland, Ryan Kelly, a defensive and an offensive perspective as we look through some of the Crimson Tide's plays from a year ago. Ryan, tell us what we're starting with right here.
All right, so this play, this is inside zone to the right, and we're basically looking here to get 2 double teams on, just a base 4 down front. As you play it, you can start to see you got linebacker motion, and as the week went on, we game planned this one. So, we take off our double teams and we work inside. So Artie and myself right here are working to these 2 inside backers that are going to cross, and just to pick up all the motion that these guys are doing this week.
Reggie, when you have a cross dog called right here, a cross dog where you're the 2 linebackers switching, what are your responsibilities if you're the first guy right here like number 17 or the second guy coming around wrapping to the backside?
If I'm the first guy, I'm trying to hit it real hard so I can free up for my second guy coming around. But if we got a run play, I know we're coached by Coach Smart. It's just to run behind the ball. So if he cuts back, we can make the play. But if he keeps going, we can run over the top and make the play also.
So Ryan, you can see here the way Austin Shepard, a guy you're going to miss this year, trying to replace him on the backside, a left tackle right now, number 79, how he washes it down and allows for the backside cut. How important is it as the running back, Derrick Henry here, to press the hole and still feel the collapse on the backside?
Yeah, when they move and they have all this motion right here, they'll play before, you can see where Shepard, really collapsed the backside and it really frees up the backside B gap. And that play right there was really successful to us because we just pushed everything front side and get a guy like Derrick Henry out on the field.
Well, we have a little quick game right here. So talk about how hard this is as an offensive lineman and how much you appreciate a running back that's going to go in there, take the inside leg out. Because I know as a quarterback, I'm fired up when I see this right now.
Absolutely. This is a quick game, so, we got to be aggressive up front. And, Derrick Henry does a great job here, especially, you got these guys coming from, 10, 15 yards away, and they got a full head of steam. So for Derrick to go down like this and, really protect his quarterback, I think it says a lot about his character and how much he appreciates this offense.
All right, if you guys go one-on-one, who's winning?
Me.
Me, of course. Me.
I know I'm about to get low, but there's always whenever you can get up on a linebacker like that, it's a fun time.
Oh yeah, especially going up against offensive lineman like he is. I believe he's the top in the country at his job, and I'm thankful for going against him day in and day out. It's making me better as a player.
Spirit of competition all the way around. That's the way the Crimson Tide rolls.
Love catching up with those guys, picking their brain about what they're doing on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. More 8A game. Threw the ball down the field. He got off to a great start, as you can see right here, outside the pocket. Didn't like his first receiver. Comes to his second, delivers a great throw to Robert Foster. On 4th and 14, you have to throw the ball down the field. He was very comfortable, dialed in, read the free safety, came to his second option, Ardarius Stewart, touchdown Bama. And then finally on the 2-minute drive, being very concise, deliberate in his reads, making quick decisions and managing the clock. I came away very impressed with what he was able to do, and hopefully for him, he can build on that performance in the second half.
All 5 quarterbacks got playing time, but Coker really stands out. 147 on 10 of 16 passing and the touchdown. As Adam Griffith will be kicking away to Thompson as he slipped on his plant foot of that kick there. Thompson feels it just inside the 10. And they're not going live on special teams here, so it is whistled down. Shannon.
Well, hey, Joe, remember yesterday, Coach Saban, he said, hey, when he's looking for a quarterback, he wants a guy who's not out there to try to prove himself. Just go out there, do what you do well, and do it. Lead this team. It's not about accurate. It's not about arm strength. It's about decision-making. He told me walking off the field that this is the best he's seen Jake Coker play. How's that for a compliment from the head boss? And, it's really translated just not on the field. I've watched Jake Coker several times during this scrimmage game, during this spring game, and he has really taken over the leadership role on the side. I mentioned earlier how he was communicating with his guys after they weren't able to convert on a series. So you really see it both on the field and when he's on the side. Jake Coker wants to eat steak tonight.
No doubt about it. David Cornwell starts his second half with a completion to Raheem Falcons. Of course, the attributes, the traits and characteristics that Nick Saban looks for in a quarterback, it goes beyond arm strength and physical capabilities. He wants somebody that's able to be that communicator and leader. You see the attributes that Saban time and time was drilling into your head, Craig.
I know those like the back of my hand. Protect the football, leadership, affecting people in a positive way.
As Raheem Falcons took a little wheel route down the sideline there for a completion.
affecting people in a positive way, accuracy, arguably the most important physical trait, judgment, both on and off the field. You have to represent yourself in the program, not only as a football player, but also as a student, as a person in the community. And finally, the it factor, something you can't teach, something you just are born with. Does Jake Coker have it? Does David Cornwell have it? Who will come to the forefront and be the guy for this Alabama team? Because Nick Saban wants to see someone take the bull by the horns and take ownership of the position.
Second down and 10 now, with Cornwell and that Crimson team offense out on the field. So he's just chased to the outside and looked Falcons' way again. 9th season here for Nick Saban. This is in the era of David Cornwell.
Like we talked about, the standard that he's set for this program, the expectations that every person in the crowd believes in. Losing a game in Tuscaloosa is not allowed anymore. Not at this point. 6 out of the last 7 years they would have been included in the playoff had the playoff been in place. The expectations and the success that this program has had is absolutely off the charts.
Flag is down in the backfield as he muscles the ball to Florney Smith at the 40-yard line. And this is going to be holding against the Crimson team offense.
Holding, number 58 on the offense. That penalty is declined. Result of the play, 4th down.
You mentioned the pressures and the expectations. Since 2008, you see Alabama topping the list of most wins in college football. Of course, you played a big role in that 2009 national title team.
Considering the competition that they go against every single week, it's so impressive what Nick Saban has built.
Cornwell, as he had the short crossing pattern underneath the Falcons. Falcons getting a lot of looks here, being targeted by Cornwell.
This is a bad throw right here by David Cornwell. Right here, an accurate pass out in front of Florney to Falcons. He gets the first down. Instead, the ball is thrown behind him. It allows the defender to close on the football, and he has to slow his momentum, Falcons does, as he goes through the catch. Have to make a better throw right there on 4th and short.
So with the turnover on downs, another opportunity for Jake Coker's day to continue, as Coker and Derrick Henry will come out to start this second half. Play action. Coker tried to back shoulder that to Chris Black, who lost his footing as it was thrown a little bit to the outside. Coverage came from Tony Brown in the secondary, as you see Tony Brown's name leading off that list of starters. This as a position group is interesting. All the years with the safeties, Clinton Dix and Mark Barron and Landon Collins, and now really entering this year, the first year without that guaranteed go-to All-American type at safety.
Very young in the secondary, but very talented. Every one of those guys handpicked by Kirby Smart and Nick Saban to carry on what a lot of people have considered DBU.
Thrown to the outside once again, coverage by Tony Brown. Tony Brown and Marlon Humphrey were the stars of last year's recruiting class for the secondary. Brown has really emerged. He could earn himself a starting job opposite Cyrus Jones when Jones gets healthy again. But topping the list of backups is a true freshman, early enrollee, and Ronnie Harrison, who now that name is being talked a lot here in Tuscaloosa.
They believe he can be the next great player at the safety position. He's so athletic. He's kind of a mixture of Clinton Dix and a big guy like Landon Collins. He can do a lot of things.
Coker makes a mistake and throws a pick, and here they go the other way as that is brought back by Maury Smith. So after a first half of such success for Jake Coker, Smith gets him and pick sixes it.
And this is just a mistake from Jake Coker. This is something that he struggled with. He plays so well, he plays so consistent, and then he gets a little bit greedy. Last year, he had the excuse. He was trying to put on in a very short period of time, trying to win the job. Right there, you don't have to do too much. Play within the system. Play within yourself. end the drive with a kick, whether it's a punt, field goal, or extra point. Jake Coker, a little greedy, pays the ultimate consequence right there.
Raving about him at halftime. Starts the second half, and all of a sudden it's going the other way. Maurice Smith, pick 6. C.J. Mosley, just one of the alums coming back here for A-Day. Quick screen, Stewart. A little slip pass to would-be tacklers, and near midfield, Eddie Jackson with the tackle of Ardarius Stewart.
Eddie Jackson, the guy that we talked about, specialized at corner last year, overcame an injury. Wasn't 100% for the entirety of the season. Now he's moving into safety, and he has that type of ball skills that you love. He made a great interception in practice on Thursday. They really like what he can become at the safety position.
2nd and 2 as Henry took it just to the outside of the lead block there, and Reuben Foster got him as he slipped down. So it'll be 3rd down and short. Eddie Jackson, obviously the transition from corner, covers a little more space. There were times where he struggled at cornerback last year. For that ACL, always a challenge to overcome that. Derrick Henry here in the backfield with Coker on 3rd and 2. Took that inside zone to the outside around the right end for a 1st down, as it was Tomlinson who was able to corral him.
And you can see, even in a short yardage situation, Lane Kiffin keeping Jake Coker in shotgun formation. Not something we're used to seeing here at the University of Alabama, but they're going to specialize from the gun this year. Jake Coker's more comfortable there, as are the other 4 quarterbacks that are vying for the starting spot. So as a result, adapt to your personnel. Lane Kiffin did an incredible job of that last year and should do another great job of that this year.
See the difference between the first half and the second half for Jake Coker. First down with Kenyon Drake. Drake wearing that black jersey. He is not live. Just going to tag off Kenyon Drake, of course, on the men from the broken leg. And he should be a big part of what this offense is about come fall.
He's a competitor. I guarantee you he would go up to Nick Saban right now and say, give me a white jersey. That's the type of guy he is. Look how frustrated. He's not tackling me. No chance. Now, usually you don't want to see those hands go up in the air, but in his case, the competitor he is, I know he wants to be out there at full strength with his team.
Now under center is Coker with Henry back in. Play action off of that. Going to take a shot downfield, and it is complete to the 30-yard line to Stewart. Shannon.
Well, Joe, you guys have already mentioned there are a lot more questions than answers as far as this offense is concerned for Alabama. Kenyon Drake told me this is definitely an answer to one of your questions. He said, we are hungry. He said there's a lot of guys that are part of this unit that have been waiting their turn, and they're ready to step up. They're ready to get it done. And you have obviously documented Drake out there, how much he wants to get the ball in his hand despite that black jersey, which he thinks should come off, obviously, before the first game of the season.
And you mentioned the hunger, and I think more than any other position that's on display at the wide receiver group, because you have 3 guys that departed the program that have carried the banner for that position over the last several years. There's a bunch of guys here that were highly touted coming out of high school that just haven't gotten a chance. Kenyon Drake is one of them, a guy that could be playing a little wide receiver because of his versatility. But keep an eye on this wide receiver group when describing the hunger and the intent to be great at Alabama.
Here's a good pop from Henry that time for a first down inside the 20 as Silv had to come up to make the tackle on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry could be primed for something special in 2015.
And look at the double teams up front. Now, that's what you want to see. Ryan Kelly, one of the best centers in the nation, arguably the front runner for the Remington Trophy, getting up to the second level and blocking a talented linebacker in Rack.
A bit of tempo now from Lane Kiffin and this white team offense. Coker On the slant that time, looking for Ardarius Stewart. Remember, he was able to connect on a 40-yard touchdown with Stewart in the first half.
I like the way Jake Coker has bounced back after the poor decision early in the second half. Right here displaying nice poise in the red zone, an area where the windows get a little smaller, so you have to be very accurate and very precise with every throw you make.
By the way, Ardarius Stewart has 6 receptions for 85 yards in that touchdown now. 2nd and 4, Drake back in. Coker, as he was looking for Drake, coming over the middle against Reggie Ragland. Drake was looking for a flag.
And actually an all-out blitz right here. They passed it off. A nice job by Reuben Foster and Reggie Ragland passing it off. As Drake released to the outside, it triggers the internal linebacker on the blitz, so they got to tighten that up a little bit and get pressure on Jake Coker, but still a work in progress defensively. They'll definitely get on the same page for the fall.
3rd and 4 now. Coker, that was thrown low, intended for Stewart. And Smith had coverage. Drive will stall out just inside the 12-yard line.
And this is a bad decision right here. This is man-to-man defense in the low red zone. You have Kenyon Drake releasing free on a vertical route. This should be a touchdown. Instead, Jake Coker focuses solely on his first progression and misses a potential big play down the sideline. Big mistake. You can see Lane Kiffin telling him, look outside. Backs and running backs. Backs against linebackers. You want that matchup.
As Adam Griffith puts it through, his 2nd field goal of the day. 20-7 white team. Number 1 goal of spring was to reestablish their identity, said Coach Saban. The white team's been establishing a little more consistency on offense. A 20-7 lead here after the field goal from Adam Griffith. Deontay Thompson fielding the kickoff. Final moments here of the 3rd quarter. Blake Barnett, the early enrollee, the true freshman from California, who was the prize that so many big-time programs wanted to land.
And they like what he's done so far. Needs to mature physically a little bit, a little thin right now. Not sure he'd be able to take how difficult and physical the SEC is over the course of a 12-game season, but he has some things you cannot teach and was not at all rattled by the situation when he arrived on campus. They have high hopes for what he can become.
There's a look at his arm as this ball is intercepted by Anthony Everett. And that'll close out the 3rd quarter. And Everett a little slow to get to his feet at the end of that play.
And right here, just staring it down, he's a young freshman. He's very, very talented. Has the opportunity to be great, but he's got to learn from this mistake right here and don't allow it to compound into more mistakes moving forward.
Everett with the interception. More from T-Town. It's A-Day when we return. See Blake Barnett talking things over there on the Crimson sideline. This was his last toss, Greg.
Just a little greedy right there. Had 2 guys, had a guy running deep, and I liked what he saw, but there's a time and a place. And Anthony Everett, a guy that has an awful lot of talent, a lot of skill, looks the part, kind of resembles D. Milner physically. Maybe it's the number 28, too, that makes me draw the comparison, but has some upside that they feel excited about coming down from a great football state in New Jersey.
Start of the 4th quarter here with Alabama's spring game, the white team, which represents the first team offense, with a 20-7 lead as Alec Morris now at quarterback for the white team. And Morris slings it just beyond the 40-yard line to Robert Foster, who has impressed us today. Let's look ahead to what this team will be facing come this fall. They're going to open up, as is often the case, with a good-looking neutral site non-conference game against Wisconsin. But then you look through the meat of the SEC schedule, Greg, and we made this point in preparing for this broadcast all week. What games would you really highlight when they're all tough challenges? And often the way to define that in the SEC is which game did you grab in your crossover against the other division, your rotating crossover game, as Derrick Henry gets some work here, and he is tracked down that time by Eddie Jackson. And for Alabama, this year, the crossover game from the other division, beyond Tennessee being the permanent, is October 3rd at Georgia.
Between the hedges, and Georgia, arguably one of the most talented teams coming out of the East this year. A lot of people pointing at them and saying that's the team to beat in the SEC as a whole. Also, Tennessee going to be very much improved with Josh Dobbs at quarterback and some of the pieces they have coming back from a very young team. But I can't pick a gimme win right there. It's a tough slate, but that's what you expect when you're at Alabama, and they're going to get everybody's best shot.
Here's Morris now on 3rd and 6. And that's incomplete as he looks Stewart's way. To your point, listen, when at Georgia and a much improved Tennessee is what's coming out of the other division, and the SEC West is the most balanced division in all of college football, you have to play your A game all the time.
All the time. Even at Texas A&M, you saw last year a team that really struggled throughout the middle part of the season, but the performance they had on the road at Auburn, you never know when you're going to get that A game. And every team in this division is capable of knocking off some of the best teams in the country. So circle those games on the road at Georgia, at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M, and of course the Iron Bowl, where the SEC West could very well be decided once again.
I'm talking about the SEC as a whole. Obviously, quarterback competition is a big part of what this offseason has been about. Tennessee is the trendy pick. And the SEC West, after a regular season last year where everybody was peaking at the right time, flat on their face in the bowl games.
The teams we saw play in the last week of the regular season, and the team we saw that Alabama trotted out in Atlanta against Missouri, no team in the West really improved from the time they played their last regular season game until the time they played the bowl game. So I would imagine some of the coaching staffs are going to evaluate their bowl preparation, maybe tweak things a little bit and get a little bit better going forward.
There's Keith Holcomb, who just tracked down Blake Barnett. Really athletic linebacker, but dealing with diabetes. He was 9 years old when he was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and here he is playing at this level of college football, where you know how much Kirby Smart and Nick Saban push their linebackers and what they have to go through.
And he's been an inspiration. They are amazed at how athletic he is. He can run sideline to sideline. He might be the fastest linebacker of the bunch. Now, a little bit undersized at this point, kind of a situational guy, but could very much develop, and he continues to work. He's one of the hardest workers on the team, and every single defensive coach complimented his dedication to the program.
Big hole, 3rd and 22 for Blake Barnett. And they'll whistle this here as soon as somebody comes and tags him. So the young guy getting some time here on A-Day. Barnett, the freshman from Corona, California. You know, Nick Saban got everybody's attention about a month ago when he was asked about the quarterback race. And somebody said, well, what are the chances that Blake Barnett comes out of left field and contributes right away? He said, well, I wouldn't rule that out at all. If he's the best player, why wouldn't I play him?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He's definitely going to draw his conclusions based on what he sees on the field. And Blake Barnett, they've been so impressed with his dedication to the game. He meets every single day with Alex Mortensen, who's a GA, who happens to be the son of Chris Mortensen, our very talented colleague that covers the NFL.
Played some quarterback himself. He's worked his way through the coaching ranks. There's the quarterback that everybody wants to see go to the next level, Jake Coker. Had a real good-looking first half before faltering early on in the second half here. Those are the 5. We brought it up earlier as Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban made a decision to really spread out the reps this spring. And Kiffin telling us, hey, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. You'd like to have a guy really emerge, but everybody's getting their chance to get in quality work this spring as Alec Morris will continue his work with the white team offense. shot to Robert Foster to the 40-yard line.
Alec Morris
Foster's been very active today, hasn't he? He's got over 100 yards receiving on 6 receptions.
And a great throw right here by Alec Morris. And Robert Foster using his body, shielding out the defender, almost blocking out like a basketball player, using that big body in his frame to make sure Bradley Silt can't make a play on the ball. Great throw, great execution, great catch.
Number 74 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
It's Cam Robinson, who many consider the premier left tackle in all of college football. He's just so athletic with that 6'6", 326-pound frame. And he dealt with injuries down the stretch of last season. Had that sprained ankle against Tennessee. Really gutted it out against LSU. Dealt with a shoulder against Auburn. He's one of the best. There's another batted ball that time as Tomlinson was able to get in the face of Alec Morris.
Back to these tackles. They feel really good about the tackle position here with Dominic Jackson. Now right there, he's got to be a little more aggressive at the point. Understand that you have a back releasing out of the backfield. He's got to attack and not allow that defender to go vertical. A good job by Thompson, though, to recognize that, or Tomlinson, excuse me, to recognize the pass, see the motion, and get vertical to knock the ball down.
Tomlinson getting some extended playing time with Ashawn Robinson out, as Chris Black comes up with the reception.
Chris Black's a guy that they're kind of wanting to step up as a leader. He's the elder of the group outside of Parker Barano, but he's in the mold of Christian Jones, kind of a smaller guy. But he hasn't gotten a lot of attention in the first couple scrimmages, but he's the guy they're going to have to rely on, not only on offense, but in the return game as well.
I want to continue that story on Chris Black and his development as they're facing a 3rd down and 8 here, because Black was a guy that came in with Amari Cooper. And here is Morris on the crossing route, complete that time to Stewart. But Chris Black was a top recruit, came in with Cooper. He was actually, at one point, the more talked about prospect. And to think where Amari Cooper went and where we still expect Chris Black to go, hard to believe that.
Well, he's built sturdily, and he has a nice frame, a good feel for the position. One thing that he excelled at early in his career was he's just too fast. He didn't have enough patience getting in and out of his breaks. So now he has a little better feel for the position. He's worked with Billy Napier, the wide receiver coach, and refining that route running capabilities, being more deliberate in his depths and his route depths. He's been more consistent as a player and should have a nice year for the Tide.
53-yard attempt, and his plant foot gave way on the turf as Adam Griffith, who had gone 2 for 2, not going to happen when you're sliding down trying to kick it. Watch the plant foot here after his drive step. As Adam Griffith tried to put something into it, but the turf didn't support it. Griffin hit a 49-yarder and a 28-yarder earlier. That's where all the hard work goes in to be a championship-level team. Here at Alabama, Derrick Henry with a touchdown run, Jay Coker a touchdown pass to give the white team a 20-7 edge. David Cornwell at quarterback now for the Crimson. Well, most of this spring has been spent talking about the quarterbacks, but one of the other headlines has been some of the off-the-field issues that Coach Saban has had to deal with. Well documented was the issue with Jonathan Taylor. Geno Smith got himself into trouble, but he's back, and Tyron Jones dismissed. My question is, what impact does that have on a team trying to prepare for a season when some of those things are creating distractions?
It can serve as a huge distraction, or it will force the hand of the leadership to step up and take hold of this team. It forces the guys that are going to be the vocal leaders, the people that guys will look to in the locker room to step up and say no more, enough is enough. And Nick Saban said, look, it's 3 guys that have made mistakes, and they're learning from their mistakes, and it's unfortunate that they had to learn this way, but the leadership has taken firm grasp. Derrick Henry, Reggie Ragland, the young guys that are now taking over those leadership groups have got to make sure they hold on and take control of this team.
Interception this time. As Cornwell is picked off by Ronnie Harrison. Ronnie Harrison, the true freshman from Tallahassee, who was an early enrollee, a 4-star guy. He's a big guy at 6'3", 218 pounds, and he has figured it out much faster than people thought he would. He's a future star.
I would hope he could figure out a ball thrown right to him. Poor job by David Cornwell. And right here, this is kind of what we've seen over the course of the game. You've seen guys force passes, and the belt once again returns to the white team. But guys are forcing passes because they have limited opportunities. They're pushing a little bit too much. They're trying to make plays because they haven't had an opportunity yet. It's resulted in a few bad decisions and a few poor throws and a few turnovers.
So the white offense set up well here. Throwback play now, and look at who they're going to. Cam Robinson. Are you kidding me? They're getting the 6'6", 326-pound left tackle involved.
He might be the hardest guy to tackle on the field outside Derrick Henry. So that's a big body that they're trying to bring down. There you got a little smile. It's a spring game. Have a little fun. I love seeing this. And Lane Kiffin said that he might have a trick up his sleeve. I wouldn't say that was the most well-executed play. I'm not sure that's one they'll be carrying in the fall, but why not have fun in your last opportunity to showcase your skills in the spring?
2nd and 12. This is Lawrence Arikasima. Let's go back to the 326-pound intended target on their play call moments ago. There he is, end man on the line, so he's an eligible receiver.
I should have noticed this when the running back was offset. I should have thought something was up. I didn't think anything of it. And sure enough, end man on the line of scrimmage, recognized the formation. It was a good job by Reggie Ragland and Jaron Reed picking out the intended target. Pretty well executed considering they just installed it yesterday.
Blake Barnett now at quarterback as he gets it to Arikasima out of the backfield. Shannon.
Joe, this white offense, they are so loose over there. They're really enjoying themselves. In fact, O.J. Howard, moments before they came out, he said, hey, watch this. This is going to be the trick play, and kind of let me know that it was going to happen. But they're having a good time over there. Certainly, like you said, a spring game. They're enjoying it.
Hey, if Baylor can have a 410-pound lineman playing tight end, then 326 pounds of Cam Robinson, why not? Adam Griffith on to attempt 37-yarder. His plant foot slipped on the field earlier on the 53-yard attempt. And this time he's able to strike away but can't connect.
It's not out of the question for Alabama to have a 300-pound tight end. Maybe Cam Robinson is auditioning for that role in the future.
If you win this game, you get a nice steak dinner. Oh, look at that, McElroy. You know what that feels like, but you also know what the other side feels like, because if you lose the game, Franks and beans.
1-3 in my A-Day experiences. It is. Put the hand in the camera. It's humiliating. You have to serve the winners their dinner. It's not the most fun aspect of playing here. Losing in the Crimson Tide's A-Day game.
Joe Greg and Shannon with you here in Tuscaloosa. Under 5 minutes to play here on A-Day. As Cornwell gets it complete to Michael Nicewander. More of a blocking type, reliable tight end.
And this will be a good opportunity to evaluate Cornwell. Going a 2-minute hurry-up offense right here where he's in control.
Cornwell. Quick decision, and it is batted and intercepted by Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey stayed with it and hauled it in. And that's the second interception thrown today by David Cornwell.
And that was actually a pretty good throw right there. A little bit of a force. Didn't feel Marlon Humphrey coming from the outside in, but he tried to hold up Michael Nicewander, threw it to his right shoulder pad. That's exactly where you want to throw it. Right there, Michael Nicewander, probably not the guy that's going to be running that option route at tight end. A nice job by Marlon Humphrey closing and making a play in a 4-minute situation.
Greg, consider this white team defense, and we spent a lot of time discussing the need for some of the defensive backs in this program to really take a step up. Ronnie Harrison with an interception, Marlon Humphrey with an interception, Washington, Everett, interceptions across the board. And Maurice Smith had the pick 6 earlier in this half, and that ball out belt tries possession with the turnovers.
Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, everyone has talked about it. The quickest way to lose games in this league is through turnovers and explosive plays. If you have a lot of them, you're not going to be successful. But if you force a lot, look at Ole Miss last year, you can have a very good season and mask a lot of deficiencies. So good job by the defense so far, forcing these quarterbacks into making poor decisions, inaccurate throws, and capitalizing when the ball's in the air.
Well, Jay Coker and Alec Morris appear to have exhausted their time with the white offense because Blake Barnett is now in playing with the white team. As he gives it to Rico Sima. He is taken down at the 40-yard line.
Blake Barnett just trying to get him some repetitions. Clearly, in a situation like this, the white team would not be throwing at 3:25 left with a 13-point lead. It's good to see the young man out there playing confidently and trying to move the offense.
Now, how would you adjudicate how he goes about having his meal as he throws another interception? So the defense continues to shine as Dylan Lee comes up with the pickoff of Blake Barnett.
This is something he'll learn from. You can see he doesn't see Dylan Lee at all. Eyes his receiver the whole way. That was triple covered to begin with. A good job of Dylan Lee reading eyes and getting out underneath the route, but Blake Barnett's going to learn from this mistake. And frankly, right now, it would be a tall order for him to play. But from a talent standpoint and a ceiling, he's there. He has everything you would desire, the intangibles, the things you can't teach. But what we need to see is more precise decision-making and comfort in the pocket from a young quarterback who will clearly develop.
Listen, the guy should be getting ready for his prom out in California. Instead, he's going through spring practice here in Tuscaloosa.
No doubt. I'm impressed by any young man that's willing to come in January, learn the offense, get ahead of schedule, and the teammates love him. The coaches love him. They think he's capable of great things.
Back-to-back decent plays from Marlon Humphrey there, too.
Great play by Marlon Humphrey, reading it up the seam, a great job. But back to Blake Barnett, really excited about what he can become. Just going to need more repetitions to feel more comfortable in the offense.
Underneath Forney Smith as he muscles his way just inside the 30-yard line. David Cornwell, 6'5", 220-pound redshirt freshman who came out of Norman, Oklahoma. Out of the backfield is Brandon Turner.
That's what
another first down for the Crimson team.
That's what he does a really good job of. Situational awareness right there. Had Rashaan Evans coming around the right end. Gets the ball out quick, recognizes that he doesn't have time to allow his progression to move. He has to get the ball out of his hands, not take a sack, especially in the high red zone. Good job by David Cornwell.
First down. Cornwell complete into a small window to Forney Smith. And that's inside the 10-yard line. Under 2.5 minutes to play. And Cornwell trying to make the most of what could be his final opportunity here.
Like to see a little more urgency from the Crimson offense right now.
On the slant, complete for a touchdown. Barano. Parker Barano with the touchdown reception with 1:59 remaining.
Great job by Cornwell right here, recognizing the pressure off the edge and actually holding up Parker Barano a little bit. Jabril Washington was trying to jump in front of the receiver and pick it off. Cornwell threw a nice, accurate pass, holding up Barano and allowing Barano to body up the defender, catch the ball, and fall forward for the touchdown.
Extra point by Adam Griffith. And a 2014 game now. Of course, this is what everybody wants to track here in the spring game. Jake Coker with that very strong first half to have his numbers at 183 and a touch. Cornwell went over 100 yards there. And the touchdown pass, and Blake Barnett at least getting some time as the early enrollee true freshman. 6 interceptions thrown by that group today.
That's the concerning thing. Young guys, you're going to have a fantastic defense, maybe the best front seven Alabama's had since 2011, but they have got to figure out a way to force the offense to march the length of the field. They can't turn the ball and put their defense in difficult situations. Recognize what you have. Understand the strengths of the team and play into those strengths. Don't force the ball and don't take unnecessary chances. They're going to learn a lot from today's performance.
Then there's going to be the fan perception after today's performance. I think so many of the fans thought that coming into this spring there wouldn't be a question as to how things would go. Kiffin and Saban quickly dismissed that, giving equal reps across the board and trying to create as open of a competition as possible. Remember, a year ago at this time, Blake Sims and the offense looked very limited. Jay Coker wasn't even on campus yet. It wasn't until 2 scrimmages into fall camp that you didn't realize who was starting to emerge as the eventual starting quarterback.
And it wasn't even until 3 games into the regular season when it was really a clear-cut winner of the
cemented and solidified in what would end up being a record-setting year for Blake Sims.
Fantastic season for both him and Amari Cooper, playing to each other's strengths, and an unbelievable job by Lane Kiffin last year, moving Amari Cooper around, game planning to each specific defense that he would see, and putting Blake Sims in situations where he can excel. An outstanding job by Lane Kiffin, but with some of the depth issues and the question marks on offense, he's going to have his work cut out for him this year.
Here's Barnett again, as the screen was blown up that time, as Tomlinson was quick to get to it. Lane Kiffin, second year here at Alabama. Broyles Award finalist, as he was recognized as one of the best assistant coaches in the nation a year ago. Look at all the school records set by that offense last year. He had a great sense of how he could get things accomplished, and Amari Cooper was a big part of that.
Who's going to be that guy this year? Will it be O.J. Howard, Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, Calvin Ridley possibly?
You don't often see that. A quarterback throwing the ball and then catching the ball, but it bounced right back into the face of Blake Barnett.
Brett Favre's first NFL completion was actually to himself, so perhaps good writing on the wall here for Blake Barnett.
Looked like that was Jaron Reed who was able to get up and defend that pass.
You're quicker to catch it when you have a black jersey on.
Nobody's going to come and slam you to the ground.
Blake Barnett, a very good athlete, underrated athlete, long strider, fast guy, can move around. He might have been able to do something with that if he was able to keep his feet.
Derrick Henry back in the game. As it is 4th down here. Coach Saban still working hard right behind his offense. Timeout called by the Crimson team defense, trailing by 6 with 1:41 to play. Well, Greg, we've been monitoring everything going on in the SEC throughout all these spring practices, and the way too early predictions let them begin. The offensive players that you think could be in play to be the best this year.
Why not? Dak Prescott, a fantastic campaign a year ago. Nick Chubb, what he was able to do, especially in the second half of the season, and the lasting impression he made in the game against Louisville. Derrick Henry, of course, going to be the workhorse. Perhaps have more carries than we've seen from an Alabama back in recent years. Jeremy Johnson and, of course, Leonard Fournette, the way he finished. The sky's the limit for the talented LSU tailback.
Derrick Henry, of course, in the backfield in this roster this year, gets a luxury that recent running backs in Alabama history haven't had, and that's simply being the man all to yourself. Kenyon Drake, kind of a hybrid guy, not the same kind of back, but for such a long stretch now, you look through the Alabama offense and you always had that 1-2 punch. Backs that were very similar, the way their physical structure was built and the way they would divvy up carries in the backfield.
And they don't really have that guy this year, like you alluded to, but you see, dating back to 2008, there's always been a clear-cut number 1 and a clear-cut number 2, and both of those guys resembled each other in the way they ran. and the way they moved in their pads. Outside of 2011, in which Trent Richardson got a lion's share over Eddie Lacy, in 2009, of course, Mark Ingram's Heisman Trophy year, it was very even split. This year, I would expect Derrick Henry to get an awful lot of touches. He can be a 300 carry back. He's 242 pounds, gained a little weight because of that expected increase in workload. So we'll monitor his situation and awfully close moving forward, but he has a special talent and an even better person and leader off the field.
Here's David Cornwell. Through to the inside, looking for Keith, and is incomplete. Keith, a 6'4" target. Young guy who could emerge in the coming years. Likely won't play a big factor this year. Of course, Amari Cooper and Christian Jones and DeAndrew White all lost to Alabama. Cam Sims was injured this offseason, tore an ACL. So Foster, Black, Stewart, and perhaps Calvin Ridley, the incoming freshman, will be the receivers of note. Cornwell on 3rd down as he gets it to Ronnie Clark, and Clark is taken down short of the line to make at the 30-yard line.
And I love what he did right there. 3rd and long. At least give yourself a 4th and manageable. A little surprised right here. You don't see the Crimson team burning a timeout. Probably want to hang on to those until the under 40 mark. But 4th and 2, obviously a game-changing play right here.
Pressure on Cornwell, as there will be a turnover on downs. Joshua Frazier came into the inside against Cornwell.
Like I said, a little surprising that they wouldn't take a timeout on such an important down, and in a regular season game they probably would have. They wanted to test their no huddle element to their offense. A good job by Frazier pushing the pocket, and a poor job by the right guard setting too far inside and giving up his right shoulder.
Well, you gave me the Offensive Player of the Year candidates in the SEC. How about your way too early Defensive Player of the Year candidates?
Well, look no further than Vernon Hargraves. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse. Robert Kimdichie, guy that everyone's talked about. That defensive line at Ole Miss is about the only one that rivals the depth and talent of what they have here in Tuscaloosa. Reggie Ragland, of course. Derek Barnett, an outstanding year for Tennessee. Myles Garrett, I want to see him become a more complete player before I really assume that he's going to be the great defensive end. And Harold Brantley, how do you not include a Missouri defensive line?
How about Stewart with another touchdown? As Blake Barnett throws a touchdown pass here in the final minute.
A nice job right here, recognizing the pressure, man-to-man on the outside. This is the perfect offensive play call. When you have that man-to-man on the outside, you're going to have Eddie Jackson in an inside leverage position, probably 2 or 3 yards inside of where Ardarius Stewart was lined up. The corner route is exactly what you want. A good throw by the freshman, bouncing back from what has been an average spring game. He's capable of more. Great to see him finish with an exclamation point.
As Rayborn gets the extra point, 13-point margin for the white team. As Nick Saban, once these 49 seconds pass by, then he's going to have to deal with all the local beat reporters and the national attention and say, okay, do you have a starting quarterback now? That's what the fans wanted to hear the answer to. What was your takeaway in terms of what we saw quarterback play today?
There were highlights and there were lowlights, and that's what Nick Saban's been talking about. He wants to see consistency across the board. Guys got a little greedy at times, but for the most part, Jake Coker overall really impressed me. David Cornwell had his moments. Blake Barnett, I love the way he finished. Cooper Bateman, not a ton of opportunities. Alec Moore, similar situation. All those guys have a lot of talent. They just have to get a little bit tighter with their decision making and make sure that they play to the strengths of the team as opposed to putting them in difficult situations with turnovers and mistakes offensively.
First half with Coker was outstanding. Indeed it was. He was 10 of 16, 147, and the touchdown. Second half got off to a little bit of a rockier start, but to your point, I think it's clear that right now in terms of experience and talent, he stands at number one. Saban won't say that. We can. We'll see what develops in fall camp. Remember last year was a couple scrimmages in, and then as you said, still almost a month into the season before you felt that Blake Sims was truly cemented as the starting quarterback. Rain held off here this afternoon. I don't know how much longer we'll be able to say that.
Knock on wood.
Always a good crowd for A-Day. even with the threat of bad weather. 27-14, the white team. The good news in terms of other spots that Coach Saban was looking to see what would develop is that at receiver, Robert Foster and Ardarius Stewart had nice days.
Really good days, and a lot of people pointing and looking forward to when Calvin Ridley gets on campus, but it's good to know they have some guys that can carry the banner for the wide receiver group on campus already. Now they're going to have to get on the same page with their quarterback. Once they decide who that guy is, there's going to be a lot of work to be done, but impressive days from those guys adjusting and making plays when the ball's in the air.
Cooper Bateman should be finishing things up here today. And he connects underneath that time to Johnny Dwight. Johnny Dwight, who played some defensive line, redshirt freshman, mostly used as a blocker.
We mentioned earlier Cam Robinson catching passes, 326 pounds. Johnny Dwight's 300. Dakota Ball used to be 300. Now he's 255. It's trimmed up, become more of a threat through the air. So they've had some 300-pound tight ends here before, mostly used for blocking, but good to see Johnny White catching the ball right there.
37 seconds remain here on 2nd and 4. Bateman. That ball was nearly intercepted that time. Instead it falls incomplete, but Crowder went up for it as he was looking for Barano.
That's a pretty good throw right there, considering the pressure coming off the left side. And Cooper Bateman hasn't made a throw in several quarters, hasn't had much of an opportunity. This is what you need to see from him, coming off the bench, maybe a little cold, not all the way warmed up, still being able to deliver accurate footballs, making quality decisions.
You know, he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and he even played a little wide receiver in the first scrimmage of this spring ball. Sophomore now from Utah here in Tuscaloosa. Good all-around athlete. You know, you said earlier Lane Kiffin made the comparison to Blake Sims. He did that in terms of the measurables of speed, saying some of the drills, some of the shuttle drills. Bateman's a really nice lateral movement, quick athlete. He's 5'9", 36 yards, and an interception today.
And with some of the inexperience up front, they could potentially have to rely on a guy that has a little wiggle and a little bit of an ability to evade and keep plays alive.
4th down and 4 now. And that is caught for a first down. It's Barano again. Had a nice visit with Coach Saban. You've obviously been around him for the whole ride up in the ascension of Alabama football through these years. Where's he at in your eyes?
He's committed. Based on the way they finished last season and based on the way the defense especially played against both Ohio State and Auburn, he's very excited about what this team can be. He believes this team has gotten back to focusing on the process, what it takes to be successful, as opposed to just having success, focusing on each individual snap, and that's something he's going to continue to try to emphasize moving forward over the course of summer and fall camp.
2015 A-Day has come to an end. The White's going to be eating steak, 27-14. Team led by Jake Coker and Ardarius Stewart, as well as Derrick Henry, who had the 2-yard touchdown run. Shannon.
Coach, I know those 6 interceptions are going to be something that stands out to you. How will that affect the way that you approach things when you get back in the fall?
Well, you know, it's like I said, you know, now we know what we got to deal with. We turned the ball over way too much all spring long. One of the big emphasis is for the defense is to get the ball, and for the offense to take care of the ball. So we obviously got to do a better job of that. And I think the quarterbacks will learn from those experiences, and we'll get better because of it.
You were able to see all of your quarterbacks here today. Based on today's performance, which one of those guys started to separate themselves?
Well, it's really not fair to make that judgment because some guys played with the better players, all right, and other guys didn't have very good offensive line. They didn't get a chance to operate as well. They didn't have as good as skill guys because we don't have a lot of depth there. So it's not really fair to assess. But I'm happy with the way that several of the guys handled the situations that we're in. Jake played pretty well. But, you know, we'll see where we're at and kind of go from there and invest our time accordingly.
Thank you, Coach. See you in the fall.
Thank you.
Joe?
Coach Saban ready to get his team to fall camp with this group of quarterbacks, Greg.
A lot to learn from, but for the most part, I came away impressed. These guys handled the situation. They're dealing with an offensive line, particularly the guys on the Crimson team, that have guys playing a little out of position, not quite as unified, going against a very deep secondary and defensive line group. So it's a tough situation to ask, especially when you can't get in much of a rhythm. Came away very impressed with what they're capable of and where this group could eventually go.
Jay Coker was 14 of 28, 183 and a touchdown. 6 interceptions combined. White team wins it 27 of 14 for our entire SEC network crew. I'm Joe Tessitore. Have yourself a great day. So long from Tuscaloosa.